Woo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Somebody texted in this morning and they said, I'm just so sick of hearing the reporting here about, how Trump is going to be banned from the Illinois ballot because of insurrection. The hearing was actually originally for keeping Biden off of the ballot. Exactly. So, yes, the Illinois State Board of Elections, they were supposed to hear and are going to hear. Um, about these lawsuits that have been filed against President Joe Biden and his candidacy for the Illinois primary ballot. And all the local news, besides right here on Cities 92.9, I did a write up on this. You can find it at thecentersquare.com or cities99.com. And you can see these different objections to Joe Biden's candidacy. And yes, this whole, 5 people, this happened prior to Joe Biden's objections. The whole, objecting to Donald Trump being on the Illinois primary ballot because of insurrection, violation of the 14th Amendment, blah, 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 blah. That happened. But then there were objections filed against and lawsuits filed against President Joe Biden. And that's really what these hearings were originally for. And now they're lumping Donald Trump into these meetings, from what I understand. And look, there are a couple of lawsuits against President Joe Biden to be tossed off the ballot. One of them, I don't like it so much because this is the same kind of reasoning. They are trying to toss Donald Trump off the ballot. They're using the 14th against Biden and President Donald Trump. And really, this lawsuit. It's brought forward by Terry Newsom and others, and they allege that under the 14th Amendment, Joe Biden actually gave aid and comfort to the enemies through his open border policies and through things like leaving $75 billion of military equipment and weaponry in Afghanistan for the Taliban, who is our enemy. Okay, so he's got a point here, Terry Newsom. And there's a big difference between President Donald Trump and the 14th Amendment and Joe Biden and the 14th Amendment. Joe Biden, prior to becoming president, was the VP and he was a senator. Okay, so he's taken an oath multiple times, 9 times from what they say, and he took an oath to support the Constitution. U.S. senators specifically vowed to support the Constitution. Now, Trump did not take that same oath because he's only been president, and the president does not take an oath to support the Constitution. Now, why is the word support so important? Because the 14th Amendment says that, hey, you are to support the Constitution, and if you commit some sort of insurrection, rebellion, or give comfort to our enemies and comfort and aid to our enemies, then you cannot serve in office. You cannot serve in office. Now, it's tricky because it's like, does this apply, to the presidency? Because the oath does not say support the Constitution, the oath that Donald Trump took. Now, Biden has taken that oath several times as a U.S. senator, and he's not supporting the Constitution, and it can be argued that he did in fact provide aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States. Unlocking the $6 billion Iran, we are now hearing. I think there was some sort of drone strike, and our guys got hit and died. So this is going to escalate that war over in the Middle East. I think this is the first time American soldiers died, which was just bound to happen. I knew that it was going to happen. Now it's just a response. And yeah, so they unlocked that $6 billion for Iran, which enabled Hezbollah and enabled Hamas to carry out these attacks against the Israelis. So it can be argued, I think, and it can be argued very well, that Joe Biden is providing aid and comfort to our enemies, and he's acting treasonously against the United States. I think that there is a case for that. Donald Trump, there is no case for the insurrection. What, January 6th, which has been debunked, time after time with video footage of Capitol police officers ushering people in and showing them around to the Capitol. I mean, it was a terrible insurrection. Okay, so, um, but like I said, I don't like either, really, the 14th Amendment for President Joe Biden, nor do I like it for President Donald Trump, because here's the thing, you're kind of working off of this, hey, they already committed these crimes, insurrection, rebellion against the United States, that he's acting treasonously, Joe Biden, and he's giving them aid and comfort. But they didn't prove any of that. They're trying to toss that they skipped a step, okay? They didn't prove that these guys did these things, and now they're trying to toss them off of the ballot using the 14th Amendment. I feel like we should have proven first that they did these things, to violate the 14th Amendment. Now, what is the smoking gun? What is the best objection? And Donald Trump does not have this objection against him. This is just Joe Biden's objection. And this is all I mean, this is all, Beth Smith. She's an Illinois voter. She's a LaSalle County District 4 board member, and she's seeking to remove President Biden from the state ballot. There's an objection to his petitions. Now, this is legitimate. There is the whole crux of this objection lies on the notarization of Joe Biden's statement of candidacy. So you have to say, I am a candidate and I'm seeking to be a candidate or whatever. And you have to have that notarized. But looky here. Joe Biden, he had his statement of candidacy notarized by a commission or a notary commissioned in DC in the District of Columbia instead of an Illinois official as mandated by state law. So it's pretty simple. Beth Smith says, I just want to make sure the election code is complied with, especially for a candidate for presidency. Now, Trump also did not have his statement of candidacy notarized by by an Illinois official. However, there were no objections to his petitions on those grounds. So we're and the objection deadline to file an objection has already passed. So you're so right, Texter. When you hear other local news besides Cities 92.9, they're going to report this very, very slantedly. But they're being slanted, and they are not giving you any details about the objections filed against President Joe Biden. Why? Because they're freaking out and they're trying to uh, shift or distract you and make you focus your attention on the Donald Trump objection. But here's the thing, there's a different objection against President Joe Biden, and there's court precedent in 2003, an Illinois case, Jackson Hicks versus East St. Louis Board of Election Commissioners. There was a ruling by an Illinois appellate court to remove a candidate from the ballot because of the whole statement of candidacy thing, where you didn't have it notarized by somebody commissioned in Missouri, or you had it notarized by somebody commissioned in Missouri and not commissioned in the state of Illinois. And this guy got tossed off. The Illinois appellate court tossed him off the ballot for that reason. So there's court precedent here. So Joe Biden, on this objection, I think should just be totally tossed off. We've got court precedent. The election code is very, very simple. It says that the notary has to be commissioned in Illinois. So, yeah. Uh, Thanks for pointing that out, Texter. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. We have so much to get to today. I'm very excited to talk about John Fetterman. I know I never thought I'd be saying that. But John Fetterman, he did something that I don't think anybody was expecting him to do from his roof. These pro-Hamas protesters, they showed up outside of his house, and he starts waving an Israeli flag, the Jewish flag, the Israelis flag, and he starts waving it from the roof, and he really starts he's beefing off these protesters, these pro-Palestinian protesters, Hamas, pro-Hamas. I repeat myself, Palestinian, Hamas, same thing. So we're going to chat about that. I don't know. Is John Fetterman a conservative? No, I don't think so. I think that this is really just trying to get him reelected because they know that there's Republicans in Pennsylvania who are peeved off at the Democrat Party and they're switching sides. And it's clear because Donald Trump has been campaigning with the UAW. He's been working with the unions, and now unions are jumping ship and they are going to be voting Republican now. And union membership is down here, specifically in the state of Illinois, by a lot. And I can get to those numbers a little bit later. But I also want to talk about this video today. It's a schoolgirl. She narrowly escapes a predator. So she's escaping a predator on this video. And this predator is a repeat offender with a history of violence. Don't know why the guy is out to is free roaming the United States. He was in Arizona. This story comes out of Arizona. So we're going to chat about it. Ilhan Omar, who's married to her brother. Yes, that's true. Ilhan Omar is married to her brother. Find me on the YouTube channel, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter. Ilhan Omar is married to her brother. And she makes a shocking declaration of what country she puts first. And here's a hint, it's not America. Okay, she is putting a country first, and it's not America. I don't know why she's in Congress. There used to be a thing called treason. Now these people are just out there and proud about their treasonous ideology and sentiment. I just don't understand. But we're going to talk about Ilhan Omar. So first, let's get to Fetterman. He's once again, now he's done this several times. He's waved the Israeli flag at pro-Hamas protesters, and he decided to do this while they were protesting at his house. And on January 26th, leftist protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters, they gathered outside of the Pennsylvania home of Senator John Fetterman. And he's a Democrat, folks, and he responded by going up onto his roof and waving this Israeli flag. And he just completely, he just, he infuriates them. It's hilarious. So I got to play this. This is pretty good. And this is John Fetterman we're talking about here, folks. Here we go.
Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide.
Wow. All right. So Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Okay, so from the New York Post, the progressive hating Democrat. I don't know if he's necessarily a progressive hating Democrat, New York Post. I think that he's just a sane Democrat on this particular issue. But anyway, the progressive hating Democrats silently waved the blue and white flag Friday night as protesters waved Palestinian flags and screeched, Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. The first term senator, he was once the darling of progressives, folks, has incurred the wrath from the left over his staunch support of Israel to defend itself from the Hamas terrorists in the aftermath of the October 7th attack. Okay, so he responded by publicly trolling them with this Israeli flag. I'm here for it. And you have to be so incredibly stupid to think that Fetterman is somehow supporting genocide through his support for Israel. The lack of self-awareness among these protesters is so infuriating, but I have a hard time even believing these people know how to get dressed in the morning. I don't think that these people really even know how to get dressed. That's how incredibly dumb they are. You're supporting genocide because you stand with Israel and their right to be a state, a Jewish state. That's all it is, Zionism. I'm a Zionist. I'm a Christian Zionist. I believe that Israel has the right to exist and exist as a Jewish state. That's all Zionism really is. And Fetterman is just standing with Israel and saying, "Hey, they have the right to defend themselves against Hamas terrorists." Okay, and this isn't the first time Fetterman has waved the flag in the face of these pro-Hamas protesters, and it's likely not going to be the last. I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about Ilhan Omar, because Ilhan Omar, who screwed her brother, by the way. Oh, no, she's married to her brother, um, and she is not putting America first, but she is putting a country first. Come back, find out what that country is. We're going to wrap up our Fetterman story, and then I've also got to tell you about a little girl who escaped a predator, narrowly escaped a predator. This predator, he's a repeat offender, folks. He stabbed his mom in the neck. That's why is this guy out? He's got a history of violence. I'm back next. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to come back talking a little bit about Fetterman, and then I've got to share a song with you. It's Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro. I might actually share another one, hopefully in the 7 o'clock hour. I really like this song. It's by the Proud Boys. There's this really cool thing happening in conservative media where these songs are just taking off. We know Northmen or Richmond, north of Richmond um, took off, and I can't even tell you. I mean, the amount of times. I mean, I'm a kayaker, and I was out kayaking this summer, and I mean, every boat on the water was blaring Richmond, north of Richmond. And there's a couple of songs I want to share with you. I don't think they're going to get as big as Richmond, north of Richmond, but we'll have to see. There's this one by Crowd Boys. I don't know if they're like where their political ideology is, but I love this song, it's really good, and then, Facts, Tom McDonald, Ben Shapiro is actually rapping in it. We carry Ben Shapiro, Cities 92.9, great lineup here, so you guys can check it out on the radio, but we're gonna come back talking a little bit about Fetterman. Ilhan Omar, she makes a shocking declaration of what country she puts first, and little news flash, it's not America, that shouldn't surprise you. It's Somalia, and, she was talking to a bunch of Somalians, and she said that she's gonna do everything in her power, to ensure, Somalia is protected, blah, blah, blah. So we're gonna talk about that here on the Morning Buzz.
They call me offensive, controversial. There's only two genders, boys and girls. They can't cancel my message cause I'm the biggest independent rapper in the whole freaking world. Claim that I'm racist, yeah, alright. I'm not ashamed because I'm white. If every Caucasian's a bigot, I guess every Muslim's a terrorist. Every liberal is right. I don't wanna talk to folks who don't get it. Go woke, go broke, no hope, it's pathetic. Pro-choice, pronouns, pro-love, you're progressive. But you ain't pro-gun, no one to protect it. Where the American flag's at? Remember when people would hang those? They've been taken down, they all been replaced with BLM flags or a rainbow. This ain't rap, this ain't money, cars and clothes. We ain't selling drugs, we ain't gonna overdose. We ain't pushing guns, ain't promoting stripper poles. We won't turn your sons into thugs or your daughters into hoes. I don't care if I offend you. I was put here to upset you. You can cry and you can scream, you can riot in the streets. You defunded the police, now there's no one to protect you. I hope I don't offend you. I ask myself what would Ben do? Let's just keep it real, facts. Don't care how you feel, man. If you want my pronouns, I'm the man. I'm the man who don't respect.
Let's look at the stats. I've got the facts. My money like Lizzo, my pockets are fat. Homie, I'm epic. Don't be a whack. Dog, it's a yarmulke. Homie, no cap. Look at the graphs. Look at my charts. You're blowing money on strippers and cars. You go into prison. I'm on television. Dogs, no one knows who you are. Keep hating on me on the internet. My comment section all woke Karens. And I make rap.
All right, so I had to share that with you. The song is called Facts, and it's Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro, and they partnered together on the song, and it's kind of blowing up. There's this really cool thing in conservative media right now where people are just making these songs. Tom McDonald is very, very popular, and people are making songs about what's going on culturally, and I think I'm all here for it. We had Richmond, North of Richmond. That was a great song. This is an amazing song. Ben Shapiro is actually rapping in it. So you guys can catch Shapiro weeknights. He's in the overnights, folks. So be sure to go to cities929.com and check out our lineup. After me, it's Glenn Beck, Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Mark Lee Van Camp, and Robbins. And then in the overnights, we do Ben Shapiro. So I had to share that song with you. I love it. I can't stop listening to it. Let me know what you think about the song in the comment section on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. The Morning Buzz is there. You can also text me at 309-451-9299. Now, before we took the break, we were telling you a little bit about Fetterman and how he's waving this flag in the face of these pro-Hamas protesters who showed up outside of his home in Pennsylvania. It's so incredibly foolish that these protesters have it in their heads that yelling at Fetterman outside of his home will have any effect on some sort of ceasefire or cause him to suddenly jump on the side of terrorists. Okay. Doesn't matter what you scream in his face, he's not going to jump on the side of terrorists. But I guess, hey, pro-Hamas protesters, whatever gets you to sleep at night, I guess. Yeah, if this is what helps you sleep at night, all the more power to you, I guess. Go scream at Fetterman. It's funny how Fetterman was a congressional candidate that conservatives were really worried about. I was really worried about him, and I still am. I don't know if this is like some sort of game that he's playing to try to get Republicans to vote for him in the next Pennsylvania election, or to get Republicans to vote Democrat. But I don't know. I'm not too worried about Fetterman anymore because the guy is kind of a centrist. And I know that's not, I mean, not really, but like also kind of. So he ended up being one of the most sane Democrats in the Senate. And I love how he's trolling these painfully stupid people. He's just trolling them. And these protesters are so incredibly dumb. They probably don't even understand what they're protesting for. But they've already proven how naive they are because Fetterman's opinion on the issue does not have the slightest effect of what goes on in Gaza. It doesn't matter if he's pro-Israel. It really just ends there. That's his opinion. But the Post is calling Fetterman a centrist, and I want to get to that because I don't know if that's true. It may or may not be true, but at this point, Democrats, they are far from just being annoying liberals. They used to be annoying liberals. Now they're radical Marxists who are trying to destroy the nation. And, at least before, like I would say probably since 2008, they used to just go bit by bit and they destroy the nation bit by bit. The liberal Democrats would. I think after 2008, Barack Obama, the left's destruction, they went from 0 to 100 real quick. Okay, so they've just been actively trying to destroy the country, and they are radical Marxists. And then it got exponentially worse, and they've been destroying the country exponentially faster after the pandemic, after the pandemic. So that's why Fetterman is hated so much by these protesters. He's not a radical. He's not a radical who hates America and hates Israel and is on the side of legitimate terrorists. Okay. At least, it seems like that's not the case lately. Now, I don't know. Maybe this whole thing is a psyop. He's trying to get the Republican vote back, or the Republicans to vote for him, to vote for Democrats, because they know Pennsylvania, like Illinois, the Rust Belt, they are starting to jump ship. These unions, they're starting to jump ship. They are no longer voting for Democrats. They're voting Republican. This is why Donald Trump is spending so much time with UAW, with unions, and uh, why you're starting to see signs that say UAW for Trump, uh, United Auto Workers for Trump. You're starting to see this because we get it here in the Rust Belt when we see manufacturing close down, when we see businesses just shipped away. We start to understand uh, that the Democrats are the ones who have taken away our economic prosperity because they've been in charge all of these years. Illinois, I mean, this has been a deep blue state for quite some time, and the unions have made it that way because they vote that way. They vote for Democrats, but they're voting against themselves. And the United Auto Workers are starting to see that. So Fetterman, he doesn't really even have to try to troll these people because these people are so painfully dumb. They kind of do it already, like themselves. I mean, you look silly out there waving a Palestinian flag in America and screaming at a first-term senator and a Democrat. You look silly. So his very simple response of waving the Israeli flag makes their nonsense seem. I mean, it just makes for great content because he doesn't really even have to try all that hard to make them look like idiots. This is the Morning Buzz. I've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, a man with a history of violence, he was caught on tape trying to kidnap this poor girl who's walking to school. Thankfully, she got away, but I don't know why this guy is out and about. He shouldn't have been released. I'm back next on the Morning Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. I'll be back in just a minute, and we're going to be chatting a little bit about a volunteer officer. She actually tells this singer, she's a gospel singer, that there is no singing church songs outside of church. And then she sticks her tongue out at this Christian singer who has over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is crazy. And I just want to file this under Pay Attention America because this is going to be happening here. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday. Now, there's something here that I want to play for us, and it's disturbing for sure. This is a volunteer officer telling a Christian singer that she was not allowed to sing church songs in public, and then she just so disgusting. She sticks her tongue out at this Christian singer. And as much as the government, now this is in the UK. So this is a UK volunteer police officer, and she tells this Christian singer that she's not allowed to sing church songs in public. And as much as the government would love to make that one day illegal to sing church songs, even in the UK, okay? So the UK, they don't have something like the First Amendment, but they do have some type of freedom of religion in the UK, at least somewhat. And this wannabe cop is deeply mistaken when she says that you can't sing church songs outside of church, even in the UK. Okay, so let's take a listen to it here. I'm going to share this with us. Find it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Religion you're allowed to do anywhere.
No, miss, you're not
You
allowed
are.
to sing
You are.
church
You are.
songs outside of church grounds, by the way.
You're not allowed to sing church songs outside of.
Outside the church or church songs or church
You're not allowed
grounds,
to-
that's fine. That's
You're not
fine.
allowed. She just said you're not allowed to sing church songs outside of church.
Our church outside of church grounds, unless you have
That's
unless you
a
be
load of rubbish.
authorized
No.
by the
You're
church to
allowed.
do this kind of song.
Okay, it's not saying anything anymore. Thank
Are you saying that you don't care about the Human Rights Act? You're lost. Religion you're allowed to do anywhere.
No,
She
miss,
actually
you're not
sticks her tongue out at this woman, at this Christian singer. So this is from the Daily Mail. A volunteer police officer told the Christian singer that she was not allowed to sing church songs outside of church grounds before sticking her tongue out at her. Ugh. So this is a gospel singer. Her name is Hermione London, and she's 20 years old. She regularly performs worship music for these passing shoppers on Oxford Street, and she has more than 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. And she was stopped by this metropolitan police special constable. It's like a volunteer cop, a wannabe cop. And this cop tells her, "No, miss, you're not allowed to sing church songs outside of church grounds," by the way. It's not entirely clear whether the officer was accusing Hermione of breaking the law in this area, which is a council regulated zone for street entertainment and singing. Like this is council regulated. This area that she was in is actually designed for entertainment. And there's no law against singing on pavements. And Hermione said that the incident actually breached, and it does, Article 9 of the Human Rights Act, which protects freedom of religion actually in the UK. I didn't think that the UK had freedom of religion. They've got it somewhat. It's not as powerful as the First Amendment here in the United States. But as onlookers watched and filmed outside of the store, Hermione protested her innocence to the officer, saying, "You are able to sing church songs. You are able to sing church songs." But the officer continued to insist that Hermione could not sing outside of the church grounds unless you've been authorized by the church to do these kinds of songs, which is just wild to me. First things first, clearly this woman had a blast telling someone what they can and can't do. Okay, so secondly, it's unclear what she would have done had this woman been Muslim. Uh, this was a Christian singer. But I think everyone listening to me right now knows things probably would have played out differently had this woman been singing Muslim worship music. It's unclear if the woman meant Christian songs were not allowed or if she meant all religions. I don't know what this volunteer cop was trying to say, but I think we all know the answer to that one. I'm pretty sure she just didn't like the Christian songs. This woman is deranged. No sane person randomly sticks their tongue out like that after incorrectly trying to uh, tell someone that they're breaking the law. That is weird. She's obviously not sane. She randomly sticks out her tongue at this woman like a child. What a pathetic attempt. I mean, what? Uh, she was on some sort of power trip and then she sticks her tongue out at this woman. This is insanity. So yeah, I don't know. I want you to file this one under Pay Attention America because we're not too far off, folks, from right here in the United States having police officers. I mean, this has happened before. I've talked with Marcus. He was a young man out of Wisconsin where he was cuffed because he was on the pavement doing some light preaching, and they tried to claim that there was an ordinance about sound, and they put him in handcuffs here in the United States. So this kind of stuff happens all of the time here as well. But pay attention, America, to what happened to this woman. And I'm just going to go out there and say this. Look, you can sing church songs outside of church. Okay. All right. I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to come back. We're going to be chatting a little bit about Ilhan Omar because she's putting America last and she's putting a different country first. I'm back next. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz, and you're going to be so happy that I filled you in on a little secret. Shh, shh, get close, get close. Burger King is celebrating National Croissant Day. Yes, with 1 cent croissant breakfast sandwiches. Yep, 1 penny. They're available today only. And all you have to do is get one in place of an order for $1 of more or $1 or more. So you get one if you place an order for $1 or more. Uh, uh, Online or through their BK app. So you got to go online or through their BK app, but you get $1 breakfast sandwich, or not $1, 1 cent, 1 cent breakfast sandwich, and then maybe get like some hash browns or something on the mobile order. So you're welcome. Today is National Croissant Day. I'm a big fan of croissants. I like croissants. I actually got a KitchenAid mixer, and I've been working on trying to make some homemade bagels. I've perfected the white bread, the regular white bread. I'm moving on to bagels, possibly sourdough this weekend. We're gonna try it. But I love my KitchenAid mixer, and I don't know. I haven't even attempted to look at recipes for croissants, but we'll eventually try those. All right, I do want to chat a little bit about this guy who's got a history of violence. He tried to kidnap this poor girl who was walking to school. Thankfully, she got away from the evil predator. Now, I would say alleged predator, due to the fact that he's already been convicted of a different crime, though. I'm not going to say alleged predator because he is a predator. He hasn't, in fact, been convicted of this crime of trying to kidnap this girl. Now, he has been found guilty of stabbing his mom in the neck. Therefore, he is a predator, and I'm going to call him a predator, and I'm not going to say alleged predator because the shoe fits, okay? So, that said, I have no idea why this man was set free from the justice or by the justice system to once again commit atrocities in society. But he was let go. He is committing atrocities in society again. And it's no surprise that he would try to harm an innocent person. Except this time he escalated and he went further and he tried to do some unspecified evil acts to a child. Okay, so he went even further, I think, in trying to go after a child, but he already stabbed his own mom in the neck. Like, this guy is crazy. Uh, to say this man should be locked up forever is an understatement. Okay, so according to Law and Crime, a man charged in Maricopa County, Arizona, with attempting to run off with an elementary school student who was walking to school. Police say his name is Joseph Ruiz. He's 37 and he's on video engaging in a failed kidnapping. So he was attempting to run off with an elementary school student who was walking on her way to school. It's a little girl. She's walking on her way to school, and he tries to run off with this little girl. Joseph Ruiz is his name. He faces a count each of kidnapping and custodial interference. So authorities did not specify if he has had a prior connection with the child, but footage shows a sedan making a U-turn towards the child who was just walking on the sidewalk going to school. The video is dated Friday, 7:56 a.m., and then the vehicle stopped along the sidewalk. The student passed by, and the driver stepped out of the car and briefly gave chase on foot and tried to nab this child. The student ran away, and the driver quickly quit pursuit and returned to the sedan. So, administrators at this Sunset Elementary Schools in Arizona wrote the parents in a letter saying that the girl had noticed the suspect follow her from her apartment. So, there were some classmates. This is a heartwarming part about the story. The classmates helped this little girl when she got to school. Look, this means fifth graders have more of a moral compass than this grown man, this grown excuse of a man, and they have more of a moral compass than the so-called justice system. Preschoolers, they know that kidnapping and stabbing people is evil. So why our justice system doesn't know that and doesn't get it, I don't know. But I mean, the prosecutor, he was in court and he says, "Hey, I want to note that this guy has a history of violence. He was convicted of aggravated assault, a class 3 felony, after he stabbed his mom in the neck." Now, we only know about the conviction, so he's got a couple of convictions. We only know that there was this class 3 felony where he stabbed his mom in the neck, but there's also other things on his record, and he's committed other atrocities. But the state has requested that information be sealed. More on this next, and Patriot Power Plug on the Morning Buzz. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. I appreciate you tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead, smash that like button. We're back. We're going to talk a little bit more about this story in Arizona, Maricopa County. This guy was attempting to run off with an elementary aged school student. She was walking to school. Joseph Ruiz, he's 37, and he's caught on video engaging in this failed kidnapping. And the authorities did not specify if he had a prior connection to the child, but we do know that this guy stabbed his mom in the neck. He was found guilty of that, and he was just out roaming the streets. This crazy person who stabs his mom in the neck. Like what? um, so we've got to talk about this conviction of this time where he stabbed his mom in the neck. And look, it's unclear what other atrocities he's committed because there's multiple. He's got multiple convictions. He's been convicted of aggravated assault, a class 3 dangerous felony after having stabbed his mom in the neck. Now, this aggravated assault and a few other things, they have requested that this information be sealed. So I don't know what kind of other atrocities this guy's committed, but it's unclear why they would want to hide that information about this guy. It's just incomprehensible as to the reason this man was able to freely roam around society after he stabbed somebody in the neck. So we're gonna chat about it here on the Buzz. Smash the like button. What? It's incomprehensible. I don't understand how this guy was able to freely roam around society after he stabbed his mom. Not just anybody. He stabbed his mom in the neck. This guy's a nut, and he was able to just roam around free. Of course, he was going to hurt somebody. He was convicted of aggravated assault, class 3 dangerous felony after he stabbed his mom in the neck. Now he's out there and he almost kidnapped this little girl who's on her way to school in Arizona, Maricopa County. Administrators at Sunset Elementary School wrote to the parents in a letter, and they said that the girl had noticed the suspect followed her from her apartment. Wow. So this little girl, she gets in to the school. She's fine. She manages to escape narrowly. She barely escapes this guy. And she gets to school. Her classmates are comforting her. Like kids even know how evil it is to kidnap and stab people, but the justice system doesn't. They don't get it. I mean, if anybody, I mean, this guy should be locked away. Should have been locked away forever after stabbing his mom in the neck. You would think, but nope, nope. And I don't know. I mean, he got away with doing unspeakable acts before, and I don't know if he's gonna be if he might just get away with this one too, where he tries to kill the or tries to do unspecified. We don't know what he was gonna do to this little girl, but he nearly got away with it, doing these unspeakable acts to a little girl. He should have never been let out. When you have a justice system that prioritizes criminals going into society, back into society over victims, you end up with stories like this. I'm just praying that the state of Arizona and who let him out in the first place, uh, and whoever wants this information be sealed. So he's been convicted of multiple things. Now, the only thing that I can see is that he stabbed his mom in the neck, and that was the dangerous 3 or the class 3 felony. But there's other things on his record, and we have no idea what other atrocities he's committed because the state is requesting that information be sealed. So I don't know why they're covering his butt, but I don't know. Let's just hope that the state does not make the same mistake again because it's long overdue to throw away the key on this one. And I'm just like so shocked that this little girl was able to make it. I mean, I watched the video and she just narrowly gets away from this predator. He just finally stops pursuit. He chases the little girl, gets out of the sedan, chases the little girl. This is the Morning Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You guys know what day it is. It's Tuesday. Mike Coolidge, former congressional candidate, Army officer, and syndicated radio host. He's also the new executive director of Citizen Farmers, and he's the Ogle County GOP chairman. Mike Coolidge joining me on the line. Mike, how you doing?
Good morning, cats. Happy Tuesday.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's not so happy because we've got to talk about these. It was 3 American soldiers. I mentioned it briefly this morning, but I knew I wanted to chat with you about it. So This happened. I also saw, now this might have been a couple of weeks ago, where in Somalia there were some Navy officers. I don't know if they were kidnapped or died. I'll look that up. But tell me about these 3 American soldiers. This was in Jordan, and it was a drone strike, right?
Yes. So this drone, this is according to various reports from these Iran-backed militias, kind of sneaks in to one of our bases, one of our outposts in Jordan, because it apparently looks like one of our drones returning from one of its missions. This sort of information and intelligence, as we call it in the military, to know when exactly to fly a drone into a base you want to attack is something very high tech. You're going to need information from, I don't know, a giant country like Iran to know that sort of stuff, to get that sort of wherewithal to determine when these routes are and whatnot. And it resulted in the death of 3 soldiers. And it is, and the names of the soldiers: Kennedy Layden Sanders, 24, Brianna Moffett, 23, and Jerome Rivers, 46 years old. Now, I was listening to you talk about these stories, these other stories that you might think are unrelated before I came on. But this concept of consequences for actions and people not being deterred from doing bad things in the United States, in the world, and it's a hallmark of the Biden administration. We have an actual invasion happening right now at our border, our southern border, and nothing's being done about it. The people who are crossing, breaking the law to come into the country, there's no consequence for that. You've got mobs of teens stealing things in cities and in stores and department stores, thousands of dollars worth of money. They don't have any consequence to it. They're going to keep doing it. Well, this, a lot of people think it's and I've heard the term before used by others, the prison of 2 ideas. You have these enemies who attack our service members and kill them, and the choices aren't full-scale war. Let's start, another war somewhere, or nothing. There's a thing and a consequence to this sort of thing that should happen almost immediately, and it needs to happen really freaking soon, so that people who have killed American service members know that, maybe we better not do this because it might result in our immediate death afterwards. Not talking about sinking aircraft carriers, not talking about let's declare war against Iran, but there's things that can be done. For example, back in 1986, Libya attacked a West German nightclub. Germany was in 2 countries back then. A civilian nightclub, and it wasn't war, but American soldiers were going to that nightclub, killed 3 service members. Similar situation, but in a city. And Reagan's response wasn't to declare war against Libya. We're going to send a bunch of aircraft carriers there. Here we go. Let's get this military industrial complex going. No, it was a surgical strike directly at the president of Libya in his house when he was there. And that shut up and zipped Libya's trap for a very long time. And the world got word of, the world knew right away, maybe we shouldn't kill American service members because this might happen to us where we sit. And this is before any sort of, drone technology existed. It was still a surgical strike. So, and Soleimani, the head of these Quds forces in southern Iraq, and again, Iran backed, that President Trump killed with a surgical strike. This guy had more blood on his hands, this Soleimani guy, than anyone else. And Trump, that killing sent such a message to the world that you don't mess with the commander-in-chief of the military right now. Well, the message that the world's getting right now from this president, Joe Biden, is that, no, you can mess with us. And the response back will be stuff like headlines that say, America doesn't want to get into war with Iran. Yes, of course they don't. But what a weak response. Pentagon says it's not seeking war with Iran after Jordan attack. Please, we don't want to get into war. Of course we don't. But that weakness message isn't the sort of communication you send to the world after you just got punched in the face and 3 innocent people, or 3 service members, we should say, have been killed. This is just a hallmark of the Biden administration.
The unlocking of the $6 billion. Was it $6 billion that he unlocked for Iran? I
Yeah.
mean, that is like, I mean, it almost like such ignorance. I get it. I mean, it almost feels like he wanted this to happen, to have American soldiers. Like, this wouldn't have happened had you not unlocked that $6 billion. Hamas would not have gone after Israel if he wouldn't have unlocked that $6 billion for Iran. And, you know, it just reminds me, when I was growing up, my dad, you know, he would say, you know, 1, 2, 3, and you never wanted to get to 3, right?
Right.
And it just feels like the Biden administration is counting to 3, and nothing happens after 3. Like,
Exactly.
and then what
Red
do you
lines
think is
being
going to
crossed left
happen?
and right. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? Obama, his red line, didn't he actually? I mean, this is the same thing.
Right. It's feckless.
2.0.
It's weak. And again, the answers, and trust me, I have definitely evolved my worldview over the years, and since I've been out of the military, which is just got over 20 years since I've been out of the military. I was in the very beginning of Operation Iraqi Freedom, but yes, my understanding of this racket that the defense industry has, and the pointless, completely making a whole lot of people in Northern Virginia rich war that we're funding in Ukraine right now. Like, I'm not for any of that. You know, this isn't a call to beat the drums of war here. This is saying, you can send a message, and I will make this analogy, and this might make people uncomfortable, but hypothetically, you talk about this guy who tried to kidnap a little kid, a little girl. Let's say you're in a department store and you've got your 6-year-old and some guy, and that happens to you. A guy comes up and tries to kidnap your kid, and then walks away. The cops aren't anywhere close. You're far away. Like, one response to that is to grab the guy and start pummeling him immediately, and getting other people to help you do that. Like, an immediate response to say, you want to try to grab my kid or do something to my loved ones? Like, it isn't, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Let's get a committee together and plan this, as this guy traipses off and walks and maybe tries to grab another kid. No, you deal with it immediately in an extreme circumstance like that. I'm using an extreme example. Well, in this case, yeah, they killed 3 American service members. Like, is that not a red line? It was, and it has been, when we've had different presidents. You kill American soldiers, there's immediate consequences. And I will say, it was over the weekend, I was just reading about the Libya precedent back in the 80s. It was about a week and a half. And it takes a little bit of time to muster that intelligence to hit the guy where exactly he was. So, let's a week from now, let's see where we're at, Kat. If it's still dithering, this is just, again, a hallmark of this weak administration.
This is another example, and I don't know what happened, but these U.S. Navy sailors, they went missing off the coast of Somalia.
Yes.
And this happened about a week or so ago. So I don't know where they're at. Their names weren't released from what I can understand. Maybe they finally were. I got to double check, but
I believe they're dead. I believe they were killed.
Are presumed dead. Yeah.
Yes. That's almost certainly what I remember reading. I didn't pull it up. Pentagon identifies SEALs lost off the coast of Somalia. Yeah, they were. They're not just missing. They're identified now as missing in action. Essentially, their bodies aren't recovered, but they're gone. Christopher Chambers, 37, and Nathan Gage, 27. Sorry, say that again.
They're U.S. They're U.S. Navy guys, and like, this has already been like, everybody's like paying attention. And yes, these 3 soldiers are, but this happened over a week ago, under the same administration. And then you've got Congress critters like Ilhan Omar, who say things like, "I'm Somalia first," And she refuses to say that she's an American, and she said that she's going to do everything she can to ensure that Somalia is fine, and she's going to stop Ethiopia from invading. I don't know, whatever she told this group of Somalians.
No, this is really important. What she said
Here
too.
we have this story, and the Somalians might have killed these guys. We don't even know.
Yeah,
and she's sitting there saying that she hates America and she wants to be go to Somalia then.
Yeah, she says Somalia should American leaders will do what we say. When she says we, she doesn't mean Michiganders or where is she from? Minnesota. No, she means Somalians. Like American leaders need to do what we say. That's this is insane. She should be immediately expelled from Congress. You got this fabulous guy, what's his name? Santos, kicked out for being stupid and spending money he shouldn't have. But he never said the sort of things that Ilhan Omar has said. And I think the Ilhan Omar thing's a little bit worse. Yeah, she should be immediately expelled, but she won't be.
Yeah, especially considering in the same week, you've got U.S. Navy sailors who have gone missing in that country. Like somebody killed them, right? They're presumed dead.
And Kat, this is such a big point. It's the overall thing. Like we don't know the details really yet of the sailors and how that happened, the SEALs, and like how did this drone get in, all that stuff. All that's all beside the point. The main point is the world sees this. Our enemy sees this and says, "Huh, you can attack and kill American soldiers, and there doesn't seem to be any consequence that happens in response to that. You can go through the border, nothing happens. You can steal stuff, nothing happens. You can botch your way out of Afghanistan and have 13 Marines unnecessarily killed. No one's fired for it. There's no consequences for that ineptitude and incompetence from the senior levels of the Pentagon. This is the hallmark of the Biden administration and their track record, and it reeks of incompetence.
Well, nobody's even running the show. What's his name? Lloyd Austin. He's gone. he hasn't even been at his job. He's the Secretary of Defense.
Complete joke. Complete absolute joke. The lot of them at the senior level. There's not a single adult there saying, "Guys, what the heck are we doing here?" Not a single one. Who is it? Kamala Harris? Certainly not Joe Biden. Certainly not Lloyd Austin. Who's running the ship here? Nobody.
Yeah. Nobody. Hey, Mike Coolidge, thank you so much. And hey, tell me a little bit about Citizen Farmers. You're the executive director.
Yes, really excited about this. Citizen Farmers gets a decentralized group of people throughout Illinois to fund grassroots efforts to do things in our communities, like register people to vote and win elections. We're always looking for, this knight in shining armor to come in and do what the Democrats are doing, because they seem to be really good at getting people registered to vote and then getting out the vote and all that kind of stuff. Well, Citizen Farmers said, you know what, we're going to do it ourselves, and we're going to decentralize it and get a bunch of different people throughout the state to fund a entity that helps grassroots efforts win elections and also get civics back into classrooms and get people much more civic minded and get involved in their communities to move things to the right. That is it in a nutshell. But I'd love to come on again and talk a little bit more about that, because we're really getting the ball rolling here and it's starting right now.
I'm excited. And where can we go to find out more about Citizen Farmers?
Citizen-farmers.com, and you have to put the www ahead of it. But we're in the middle of a rebranding, and our website's being updated and stuff, so you'll have a lot more information about that momentarily.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike Coolidge. You have a great rest of your Tuesday, and thanks for joining me on Patriot Power Plug.
You too, Kat. Have a great week.
All right, folks, we're going to be back here in just a little bit. You're listening to The Morning Buzz on Cities 92.9. Good morning. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. We're going to be coming back talking a little bit about Ilhan Omar. Yes, because she said, and it shouldn't come as a surprise to you because it's Ilhan, but she said America is not her priority. Rather, Somalia is her priority. Then go to Somalia. Nobody wants you here. If you're saying, this is our priority, Somalia, and we're going to get U.S. government officials to do what Somalians want. I'm here to serve the interests of Somalia. You shouldn't be here. You should go to Somalia, but she won't. Okay, she actually fled Somalia and she came to the United States as a refugee in 1997 when she was 8. Okay, so I don't know why people in government want to act in the interests of other countries who have benefited the world in no significant way. Like Somalia, what are they known for? What have they done for the world? Nothing, absolutely nothing. So why are we acting in the interest of them? Um, I'm back next. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every morning. And 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. That's the Morning Buzz. Ilhan Omar, she's putting Somalia first. That shouldn't come as a surprise to you. She's terrible. She also married her brother. But yes, she's putting Somalia first and being Muslim second. And that's according to a very passionate speech she gave about the country of Somalia to a group of Somalians, and she talks about how she wants to expand the country's territory. Yes, in this speech. Now she speaks some sort of Somalian language. I don't know what she's speaking, but I want to play it for you so that way you know that I'm not lying to you when I say that she's saying these things. I mean, this is treasonous behavior. She's not a public servant. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
annaga haddii aan nahay dad Soomaali ah waxaan nahay dad isjecel waa laga yaabaa meelaha qaarkood inaan isku xagxaganno laakiin haddii runtii ay imaato waxaan nahay dad isku tashto dad walaalo ah dad dhiig lah dad isku og inay Soomaali yihiin inay Muslim yihiin oo iyagana isku hiiliya dadka walaalahoodna u hiiliya marka daraad markii ayaan dhexdaas markii aan maqalnay in qaar Soomaali ah ama Soomaali sheegato in Ethiopia ay
Okay, so I wanted to play this. This is a remarkable clip where we have a Somalian American congresswoman. Okay, so she came to the United States in 1997. She was a refugee. Ilhan Omar, she was filmed. She was speaking uh, to the Somalian Americans in Minnesota, and she said that her number one job is to protect the interests of Somalia, the country. She continued to say, "We're doing this job right from inside America, the American establishment, which is Congress." And she said that Somalia will one day invade Kenya and other places there and expand their territory. And she I mean, this is like ethno expansion ideology. This is like the Nazi Germany ethno expansion ideology that led to the Great World Wars and costed mankind millions of human lives. And here we have Ilhan Omar. She's entered the U.S. on false identity papers. She married her biological brother in the process, and her father, as an army general, uh, it killed 500,000. Uh, I mean, this is Ilhan Omar in her own words. She says that she serves the interest of a foreign state rather than American citizen. She is a mole in the system, folks. And Ilhan Omar, she had a different interpretation, and she says that she's representing the interest of Somalis in the United States. Okay, so she's trying to say that she didn't say all of this about expanding this ethno expansion. I mean, that's similar to Nazi Germany. I mean, that's like Nazi Germany. This is ethno expansionism, and it's a dangerous ideology that leads to wars. And Ilhan Omar is out there saying that she's more interested. So, quote, this is what she said in that speech. The US government will do what we want. And when she's referring to we, she means Somalia. Uh, Nothing else. They must follow our orders. That is how we safeguard the interest of Somalia. So she's not making America her priority. Okay, as an elected member of Congress, uh, she said, "This is our priority. I am here to serve the interests of Somalia." I'm quoting her directly here. Look, if you are saying, your priority is to serve the interest of Somalia, then go to Somalia. I know you won't, but go. Go to Somalia. Elected officials cannot put other countries and entities first. So if Omar claims that her priority is serving Somalia, why is she even here? Why is she in Congress, where you take an oath to defend America? And America is not even on her list. I get she's pandering to an audience here, but you cannot say I'm Somalia first and I'm Muslim second, and America is nowhere on that list because America is the one who elected you for this voice, gave her a voice. Otherwise, she'd be just one more person in this godforsaken place known as Somalia. Omar, she fled Somalia when she was 8 and she came to the United States as a refugee in 1997. She lied to get here. She married her brother. I mean, why do people in our government act in the interests of other countries who are, and these countries don't benefit the world at all? What has Somalia done for the world? They have not benefited the world in any significant way. Hey, and Omar, she, like I said, has a different interpretation of the facts. Okay. She says that, oh, I was speaking to Somalian Americans and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, quote, "It's only slanted, but completely. It's not only slanted, but it's completely off the interpretation of what I said here to this group of Somalians. But I wouldn't expect more from these propagandists. I pray for them and their sanity." Lady, I'm direct quote. You said, quote, "The U.S. government will do what we want," as in the Somalians, "nothing else. They must follow our orders. That is how we safeguard the interest of Somalia." More quotes. She says that she is there to serve Somalia. I mean, come on, it doesn't get much more clear than that. The Somalia Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Rhoda Elmi. Rhoda Elmi. This is an ambassador, and he wrote on X that Omar's ignorance was shocking and that her expressions were lacking in common decency and revealed a significant lack of understanding of basic facts. So this deputy of Minister of Foreign Affairs is not happy with Ilhan's comments. And this deputy also said that Omar's endeavors to revive the once violent and dangerous ideologies of Greater Somalia, which caused much death, was specifically troubling. So she's talking about or ethnicity expansion in a similar way that the Nazis. I mean, that's the facts here. She was talking about expanding Somalia, the ethno expansionism. This ideology is very similar to that of the Nazis. And this is specifically troubling. This is what the current deputy of Minister of Foreign Affairs, the ambassador there, said about Omar and her ignorance. She said it was shocking. They said it was shocking. So let me ask you this. How many public servants do you actually believe serve you? Like, I'm actually curious. How many people? I can't tell you a single politician where I think that they are a public servant of the people. I've interviewed plenty of politicians. Okay. I can't think of a single one that's in office right now that is a true public servant. And I can't think, do you know any local? I really can't. I can't think of a true public servant. And I know that's controversial, but I really can't think of a true public servant who's not in this. I mean, they get in there and they come out with all kinds of money. Okay, that should show you that that's not about serving the people. It's about serving your own interest and getting rich. So I can't name how many public servants do you believe actually serve you? Let me know. Now I do think that I could name a couple. I'll think about it over the break and then I'll come back and we'll chat about this toy store that actually inspired Toy Story, the film. They were actually forced to shut down over the perils and violence of living in a progressive city. So San Francisco's oldest toy store, which was actually inspired the film Toy Story, permanently closed because of the violence that's going on in San Francisco. We're back next on The Buzz. Henry, he's in the comments section. He says Senator Kennedy from Louisiana is the only one that comes to mind. Yeah. I've got one. Donald Trump. Right here in the text line, they said Donald Trump is a public servant. He's lost so much income serving this country. Yeah. And I said, truly, how many public servants can you think of? Public servants, do you actually believe serve you? Because what I see time and time again, politicians, they go to Springfield, they go to DC, and then they come back richer than they were before. And I'm sorry, but if you come back way way more wealthy than you were before, uh, I question if you're actually a public servant. We know Ilhan Omar is not a public servant. She took an oath. She took an oath, folks, to support the Constitution and make America a priority. But she came out and she quite literally said that she is prioritizing Somalia. Elected officials cannot put other countries or entities first. So if Omar claims her priority is serving Somalia, why is she even here? Why is she in Congress where you take an oath to defend America? And America is not even on her list. She is not making America. She says, I'm Somalia first and I'm Muslim second. And America is nowhere on that list. And I find it funny because America, is the one that gave her the voice to gave her a voice. Otherwise, she'd just be one other person in that godforsaken place known as Somalia. Then I mentioned, the US, they identified these two missing Navy SEALs who went missing off the coast of Somalia, and they are presumed dead. Chris and Gage and Nathan Gage, Chris Chambers, and they were Navy special warfare operators, and they've gone missing off the coast of Somalia. As of January 11th, U.S. officials said they found parts of ballistic missiles and cruise missiles Iran was supplying these fighters in Yemen. I don't know what happened to these two Navy SEALs who went missing at sea, but they're presumed dead. And this happened in Somalia. Like, did the Somalians kill them? And why do we have a Congress critter who's out there making Somalia her priority? She's also, married to her brother. Okay, so text in 309-451-9299. I find just putting it in writing makes me feel better. Ilhan married her brother. Ilhan married her brother. So you can throw that in the comment section or text me. Ilhan married her brother. So before we took break, I was telling you guys a little bit about progressives destroying everything they get their hands on. Typically, that's through the implementation of these degenerate policies, and de facto, these degenerate policies cause destruction. And we all know there's no no perfect example for that than San Francisco itself. There is no other example that is more perfect than San Francisco. We know that liberals get their hands on things, they create degenerate policies, and then there's destruction. And this is, this is quite literally a zombie apocalypse. Third world. This is the worst. Unfortunately, innocent residents, they have had to succumb to these policies. And these policies are drafted up and implemented by the very people, by the people that are supposed to represent these residents, these innocent residents. So San Francisco, their oldest toy store, was known for inspiring the Pixar film Toy Story, is permanently closing due to perils and violence in the city's downtown. So it's closing after 86 years. More on that in just a little bit. We do have to cut to break. I'm going to finish up this story, and then in the 8 o'clock hour, we're visiting with Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus for Tax Tip Tuesday. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Kat Peterson 929. Coming up in the 8 a.m. hour, we're going to be visiting with Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus. He lives and breathes taxes, folks. He knows everything there is about taxes. And just recently, the IRS has started accepting tax returns. So we're going to chat with Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus. Before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about a toy store that closed up in San Francisco. I mean, it was there for 86 years and they closed up because of the violence in the city's downtown area. This is a progressive run city, and they've got degenerate policies that have led to the city's destruction. I mean, I could have called this. This was on my bingo card. So, Jeffrey's Toys said Friday that they're going to be closing at the end of February. The city's crime and violence was cited as a significant factor in the decision to shutter the 86-year-old business. Now, this was a toy store that inspired Pixar's film Toy Story. We all love the film. San Francisco has had a long list of retailers who have closed in the last few years. We've got Whole Foods, Old Navy, Office Depot, Ab- Abercrombie and Fitch, Disney. There's like a Disney store there, Marshalls, H&M, Gap, all closures. I mean, all of these retail stores have been closing because of the violence. The store has been struggling for a number of years due to the perils and violence of the downtown environment, inflation, and decrease in consumer spending, and the demise of retail across the world. This is what Ken Sterling, the attorney for the family, said. The family-owned business. The leadership of the city of San Francisco and the Downtown Association have their work cut out for them on how to revitalize what was once a vibrant and fun downtown experience. It's truly scary to think about what that city will be like in 10 years. How many stores will even be left? I mean, we're starting to see this. There's only so much abuse these businesses and law abiding residents are going to take. Same is true in Chicago. Now, Chicago, if you've looked at the real estate there, it's insane. Some of these buildings, they were purchased for millions of dollars, and now they're going for pennies in comparison. And it's truly sad that this mom and pop shop had to go through the Panny D while its neighbors, Target stayed open because they were deemed an essential business. And then, after the Panny D, after the pandemic, the downtown area there in San Francisco was just consumed by crime and violence. It's sad. And, of course, there's no room for a toy store in, this progressive run city, you know? Um, do we remember how incredible it was to go, to one as a child? I loved going to a toy store. It's a magical experience. It's more magical than Disneyland, right? To go into a toy store. I loved Toys R Us growing up. But, it shouldn't shock us because progressives hate kids. They don't want kids. The amount of excitement kids feel when they walk into these places makes them feel like they're on top of the world. But progressives cannot have that when they're in charge of things. These people hate things that bring joy to life. Misery loves company. Okay, and um, they they want to destroy anything and everything within their reach. That's what these progressive liberals are all about. They don't like kids. They don't like things that bring joy. And the left also loves their outrage. That's why they're always shouting about it and forcing it upon the people they were elected to protect. And they are always only progressives can take one of the most richest, beautiful cities in the country and turn it into the nation's doo-doo capital, quite literally. There's a map in San Francisco where there's doo-doo on the map, and you can see what spots have the most crap in the streets. So look, they only they can do this. So this was it's a sad story. This is an 86-year-old business, and it was actually, a toy store that inspired the film Toy Story. So it's permanently closing. Do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus. A little bit later in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about the pro-Hamas protesters showing up outside of John Fetterman's house and John Fetterman going to his roof and waving an Israeli flag from his roof. That's hilarious. And then there's this video And I talked about it in the 7 o'clock hour, but I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to show you how this girl narrowly escapes a predator. And this predator is a repeat offender and has a history of violence. And then a little bit later, we'll get back to Ilhan Omar. I talked a lot about her in the 7 o'clock hour. She makes this shocking declaration of what country she's putting first. And it's not America, it's Somalia. And then also, we'll chat about Donald Trump knocked off the ballot in Illinois. Well, mainstream media won't stop talking about it, but listen, folks, the whole reason why the Illinois State Board of Elections is meeting is because they're going to listen about it was originally to hear the objections to Joe Biden being on the ballot in the state of Illinois. That's all next on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. I so do appreciate you guys tuning in each and every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. We are going to be chatting with Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus for Tax Tip Tuesdays. And we'll talk about John Fetterman because Fetterman, once again, he raised this Israeli flag, started waving it around in the faces of these pro-Hamas protesters. And I'm so totally for it. Now, I don't know if it's a psyop, if he's trying to get Republicans to vote Democrat. Don't do it. It's a scam. In Pennsylvania, we know that Pennsylvania, the UAW workers, manufacturing, they're all jumping ship and they're starting to vote Republican. And that's why Donald Trump is taking so much time and he's campaigning towards the UAW or campaigning and spending some time and resources on those types of folks, the union guys, because they're jumping ship. So, anyway, John Fetterman, he's a Democrat. I don't know what his play is here, but hey, I'm here for it. He responded by going up to his roof when these pro-Hamas protesters were at his house, and he started waving this Israeli flag to infuriate the mob, and I love it. So we're going to chat about it, but first, we're going to visit with Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus. Go ahead, smash that like button, and share this out with your friends. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Yes, we will be talking about the pro-Hamas protesters who showed up outside of Fetterman's home, and they didn't expect what he did from his roof. I didn't expect it either because John Fetterman's a Democrat. Now, I don't know if this is some sort of psyop or what he's trying to do, but he's fooling me because I am like so excited by this the way he responded to these pro Hamas. This is beautiful because it was very simple. All he did, he went up to his roof and he started waving an Israeli flag. So we're going to chat about that. Plus, a little bit later, we are going to talk about this crime that happened in Maricopa County, Arizona. This guy, he tries to run off with an elementary school student who is just walking to school. But get this, the guy, Joseph Ruiz, 37 years old, he's not an alleged predator. He is a predator, okay? Even though he hasn't been yet convicted of this crime where he tries to kidnap this girl. He was found guilty of stabbing his mom in the neck. Yes, I don't know why this guy's out, but he should have been locked up forever, and that's an understatement, folks. All right. Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus. This happens about 8:05 every morning. If you have a question for Rick, he'll be happy to answer you directly. Email him at rick@taxaccountingplus.com. He knows everything about taxes. And tell us, Rick, our first topic today, filing status. What do we need to know?
All right. Thank you, Kat. Yes, I can't say I'm going to get up on a roof and do this at this point in time, but I can help share some of these.
Not pulling a John Fetterman
today. That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you, Kat, and thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoy you and your listeners. Today, the first, as you said, the first tax tip for this Tax Tip Tuesday is going to be filing status. Now, there are 5 separate filing statuses. And everybody thinks, oh, why is he talking about filing statuses? It's, kind of an easy thing, I'm either single or married type of thing. But it's a little more detailed than that. Let me first point out that, everybody understands the IRS is pretty fickle. And whoever wrote the code decided to have a good laugh on everybody because everything in the code book is generalization. And then with the generalization, there's always the exception. And that's what gets everybody is the exception. Most people don't know the exceptions. Do some due diligence and some research. Get a good preparer that recognizes the exceptions and can help you get some more money back. Okay, so the filing statuses are single, married filing joint, qualifying widower, married filing separate, and head of household. Those are the 5. Now, to briefly explain each, single is pretty straightforward. If you are single on the last day of the year, December 31st, then you are single for the year. So if you want to pick that filing status, you can pick that filing status as single. And that also means you're just by yourself, no kids, no dependents, anything like that. Married filing joint, you are married in the last day of the year. So if you were just married on December 31st, then you can claim married filing joint for the year. Now there are choices though involving this. You have married filing joint and married filing separate. So you can choose to file with your spouse or without your spouse. Okay. Now, if you file married filing separate, keep in mind you probably want to do it both ways because married filing separate is the highest tax rates in brackets, whereas married filing joint is the best. Okay. Then there's head of household. This one gets a little messy or whatever because you can claim head of household if you have a dependent, a child that's been living with you for more than 6 months out of the year and that you maintained a home for, et cetera. So you have to be head of household of somebody to claim head of household. Now, this is where these exceptions come in, okay? Because you can actually be married and claim head of household. If you have separated from your spouse and you haven't lived with your spouse in the last 6 months of the year and you have maintained a home for your child and such, then you can claim head of household for that year. And what's really kind of cool about this whole thing is if you and your husband are separated and you have 2 children, he has one with him, you have one with you, even though you're married, you both can claim head of household. So keep that in mind, and that's what I have for the filing status. Now, along with that is filing requirements, okay? The IRS says, okay, if you do not meet these filing requirements, then you don't have to file, okay? And again, that's the general rule. So the filing requirements are going to depend on your filing status that we just went over. So just to briefly give you, if you're under 65, okay, and you are filing as single, then you need to make $13,850 or more. If you're head of household and under 65, you need to make more than $20,800. Married filing joint, $27,700, and married filing separate. It's only $5, so $5. So you pretty much got to file no matter what. But those are your filing requirements. Now it says, hey, you don't have to file unless you made that much or more. And also, though, if you are self-employed, you stick that in there. If you make more than $400 in self-employed income, then you need to file as well. Now, but again, there's exceptions, things you got to look at. Even though, let's say you're single, or no, let's say you're head of household. Okay, head of household, your filing requirement is $20,800 if you're under 65, but you have a child, okay, that you're taking care of. Now, maybe you only made $10,000, so you're nowhere near that $20,800 limit, but you may still want to file because there's credits. Okay, there's earned income credit, child tax credits, certain refundable credits that you can still get money back on. Maybe part of your income was from a W-2 and you had some federal withholding withheld. So in order to get that back, you need to file. So those are two reasons to file if you have not reached the filing requirements, is to get refund. Don't let the IRS keep your money, okay? Remember, IRS is set up to try to find someone or an individual not following the rules. They don't do really well of reminding you if it's in their favor. So, and that is the filing requirements. Oh, also keep in mind with those filing requirements, if you are over 65, married filing joint, married filing separate, qualified widower, you get an extra $1,500 on top of those filing requirements I listed earlier. If you're single and in a household, you get $1,850 more. Now, that is for being over 65, and also if you can be considered blind. So if you're married filing joint, each individual in your marriage, if they are over 65, gets $1,500 each. That's $3,000. And if you're considered blind, that's an extra $1,500 as well. So all saying, if you were married and blind, you get an extra $6,000. So that brings us to the last but not least, the standard deduction. As I said before, the filing requirements are basically the standard deduction. Okay, so the standard deduction is an amount of money the IRS will allow you to deduct off of your income, okay, based upon your filing status. All right, you don't have to prove anything to get that standard deduction. The only thing that you would possibly have to prove would be your filing status and that you qualify for the status that you chose. Okay. The other part of that other side of that coin is itemization. Okay. Itemization, we're going to talk about that in the next couple of weeks coming up. But if you itemize your expenses and they are more than your standard deduction, then you can take your itemized expenses as compared to the standard deduction. And last but not least, I noticed here that for qualifying widower, I did not explain what the qualifying widower filing status was. So qualifying widower is, it says if your spouse passed away in the current year that you're filing your return, you still get to file married filing joint. But for the next 2 years after, you can file qualifying widower if you have a dependent, a child that you're taking care of. And what that does, that gives you an extra 2 years for married filing joint to file with the married filing joint tax rate. Okay, it'd be qualified widower, but qualified widower and married filing joint tax rates are the same. Okay, I know that's a lot of information today, but I hope you enjoyed it and you can use it. And I thank you for allowing me to share the tax tips on this Tax Tip Tuesday.
I thank you, Rick Johnson, for providing all of this helpful information. Tax season. When did the IRS start accepting tax returns, by the way?
Oh, thank you for asking that. That was yesterday. It was a wild day. A lot of people, we had, coming through the doors, having the stuff. We electronically filed. The IRS started accepting returns. We had no hiccups. Everything went fine. We expect that as people begin to getting their information statements, their 1099s, their W-2s, things like that, in the next few days, as they all are supposed to be mailed out by tomorrow. That doesn't always happen, but that's what's supposed to happen. So there'll be a pretty big rush, I think, at the door. But it was a great day.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Rick Johnson from Tax and Accounting Plus. And how do we get a hold of you, and how do we learn more about Tax and Accounting Plus?
Okay, thank you, Kat. It's you can find us on the web at taxaccountingplus.com. We are located at 501 North Clinton here in Bloomington, Illinois, and you can give us a call at 309-827-4010.
Thank you so much, Rick Johnson, and you have a fabulous Tuesday. All right, folks, we are going to be back on the air, taking a quick break, word from our sponsors, and we're going to be chatting about John Fetterman. Like I said, he's on his roof waving an Israeli flag at pro-Hamas protesters, and you guys are going to like this clip. I'm going to play it here for you on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel today, and you can always text me at 309-451-9299. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We're going to be talking about Ilhan Omar making this shocking declaration of what country she puts first. And newsflash, it's not America, but it shouldn't shock us because Jacqueline pointed this out. The words of Omar should not shock anyone. Her district in Minnesota has a huge Somali population, and they were relocated there by Barack Hussein Obama. Her installment there was all strategic. Wonderful message. And yes, Henry, it's tragic. The old saying, happier than a kid in a toy store, had its origins in mom and pop stores. There was a mom and pop store in San Francisco. It was the toy store that actually inspired the film Toy Story. And it's been there 86 years, and in San Francisco, they shut it all down because of the violence and the perils of the downtown area. It's been destroyed by progressives, everything that they can get their hands on. They don't like joy, okay? Misery, you know that saying, misery and joy's company. They're miserable, and they want everybody else to be miserable along with them. So that's why they don't care that the toy store is gone, because they're all about taking away um, the joy in life. They are all about taking away the joy. They're in charge when they're in charge. The joys that these people hate anything that brings joy to life, so they'll take it away. And there's just no room for a toy store in a progressive run city because you know it's not safe to take your kids. I mean, do you remember how incredible it was as a child to go into a toy store? It's magical. It's a magical place, and the excitement that kids feel when they walk into these places. It's sad that not only these, but also this toy store, but there's been all kinds of retailers that have shut down in San Francisco because of the crime. So yeah, Henry, thank you so much. Kiddo, I'm eating breakfast. To think about in Islamic incest turns my stomach. Yes. So, oh, we were talking about Ilhan Omar. Throw it into the chat if you're watching. Ilhan Omar married a brother. Married a brother. Ilhan Omar married her brother. Um, and Ilhan Omar, she entered the country on false identity papers. She married her biological brother in the process. Her father was an army general and is known for genocide, killing 500,000 people in this Somalia type country, Greater Somalia. So she is all about this ethno expansion or expansionism ideology, and it's comparative or it compares to the Nazi Germany ethno expansionism. So and that leads to great world wars. All right, we're back now. Woohoo! Good morning. Hey, this is the morning buzz. And I love this comment, Jacqueline. She's thrown into the chat. You guys can go ahead and text me at 309-451-9299, and you can hop onto the YouTube stream and comment there. Jacqueline, she says, in the words of Ilhan Omar, they shouldn't shock anyone. Her district in Minnesota, it's a huge Somali population, and they were relocated there by Barack Hussein Obama. Her installment there was strategic. Yes, she came here false pretenses she had false identity papers, okay, and then she married her biological brother in the process of coming here, and her father was an army general, killed thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. I think she's a mole in the system. I mean, in her own words, Ilhan Omar serves the interest of a foreign state rather than American citizens. And she just comes out and says it, folks. And she says, no, that's wrong. Somebody says the interpretation is slanted. Omar says that she's representing the interests of Somalis in the United States, which is a legitimate task as a congresswoman in any Democrat society. That's just no. No, I when you look at what she said, the direct quote, I'll pull it up here. Hold on. When you look at what she said, the direct quote was the US government will do what we want, the Somalis, nothing else. They must follow our orders. That's how we safeguard the interest of Somalia. Like, come on, folks. It doesn't get much more crazy. I mean, she is Somali. And then she says that she's Somalia first, Muslim second, and she never says anything about America. She gave this very passionate speech about how she wanted to expand the country's territory and that the US government was going to bend the knee and follow the Somalis' orders. Okay, so, and don't take my word for it. Here we have the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs writing on X that Omar's ignorance was shocking and that her expressions were lacking in common decency and revealed a significant lack of understanding of basic facts. And then the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs over there said that Omar's endeavors to revive the once violent and dangerous ideology of Greater Somalia, which caused so much death, by the way, is specifically troubling. Okay, so she's talking about what's called ethnos expansionism, and I mean, you can look at this on at from a historical perspective. You look at Nazi Germany. This is exactly what they did: an ethno expansionism ideology, and that led us into a great world war that costed mankind millions of human lives. I mean, that's she's insane. She's insane. But I love what Jacqueline said. She said, "You know what? It shouldn't shock us. She was installed. This was strategic. She's a mole." Okay, I do want to switch gears. Let's talk about John Fetterman because John Fetterman's on his roof. Yes, quite literally. So on January 26th, leftist pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters, I repeat myself when I say pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters, they're the same thing. They gathered outside of the home of John Fetterman in Pennsylvania, and he responded by going up to his roof and waving an Israeli flag. Here's what it all sounded like. Here we go. All right, here we go.
Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide.
Oh boy. Okay. So I think I've got to say this. Look, him being pro-Israel is not supporting genocide, by the way. And it's incredibly stupid to think that Fetterman is somehow supporting genocide through his support for Israel. Okay, so here it is from the New York Post, the progressive hating Democrat. I don't think he's a progressive hating Democrat. I think that he's just a regular Democrat. He's a progressive himself. And I think that he is just taking the high road here. I think that he's just not a radical Marxist when it comes to being on the side of terrorists. Okay, so they shouted, they screeched, Fetterman, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. I think this is so funny. But he's a first term senator, and he was once the darling of progressives. And now he has incurred the wrath from the left over his staunch support of Israel to defend themselves against Hamas since the October 7th attack. And he has been publicly trolling them. Look, the lack of self-awareness among these protesters is infuriating, but I have a hard time believing that these people even know how to get dressed in the morning. Yeah, they're just incredibly dumb. I'm not too infuriated by this because leftists do what leftists do, right? But this is not the first time Fetterman has waved in an Israeli flag and pro-Hamas protesters faced, and it's definitely not going to be the last time, I don't think. However, I think this is what gets me about pro-Hamas protesters and these pro-Palestinian protesters, that all of these like outings, these protests that they do, like they actually have it in their heads that yelling outside Fetterman's home will have an effect on a ceasefire in Gaza. That's just not going to happen. And he's not suddenly going to jump over to the side of terrorists. Okay. But they do these protests. I mean, I guess whatever helps you get to sleep at night, Mr. Pro-Hamas protester. But look, I don't think that he's, conservative by any means. I think it's funny that Fetterman was a congressional candidate or a Senate candidate that was, worrisome. We were worried as conservatives And he ended up being one of the most sane Democrats in the Senate right now when it comes to this issue, anyway. And the protesters incredibly dumb. I love how Fetterman just does it very, very simply, and he waves the flag. Now, the Post is calling him a centrist, which may or may not be true. Now, at some point down the party lines, the Democrats went from being annoying liberals, and they've become radical Marxists that want to destroy the nation. And it used to be that these little annoying Democrats, they would, destroy the nation bit by bit. But since 2008, really, I think the destruction of these Marxist radicals went from 0 to 100 real quick. I mean, from 2008, Barack Obama gets elected, and then 0 to 100 real quick. And then the pandemic just exponentially quickened their destruction. And look, I don't know if Fetterman. I mean, I wouldn't call him a radical on this issue. Obviously, he's taking the correct stance here, supporting Israel to defend themselves. I'm a Zionist. I'm a Christian Zionist. I believe that Israel should exist as a state, and it should be able to be a Jewish state. Um, and, I don't know. Maybe it's all a psyop. Maybe he's trying to get Republicans to jump over to keep voting Democrat, and he's taking positions like this. Who knows? I just think it makes for great content, and I love seeing Fetterman up there on his roof. I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to Cities 92.9. When we come back, I want to talk about the Illinois State Board of Elections and the objections against Joe Biden because the mainstream media is not talking about that nearly enough. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be sitting here talking a little bit about Biden's bid for the Illinois primary. Has been challenged by a couple of folks and a couple of different lawsuits. The mainstream, they're going to constantly tell you about Donald Trump's challenge, which is very insignificant in comparison to at least one of the objections against Joe Biden. So we're going to talk about that because I don't think any local news source is going to talk about how the Illinois State Board of Elections is actually going to be looking at President Joe Biden and his bid for the primary here in the state of Illinois and how he could be potentially thrown off the ballot. And actually, I think more so, he has more of a likelihood of getting tossed off that ballot. That's next on the buzz. I got an early text this morning, and they said, "Hey, Kat, everybody's talking about how the Illinois State Board of Elections they're going to meet. They're going to hear these objections to President Donald Trump and his bid for the Illinois primary, and the Illinois State Board of Election is going to come to a conclusion on whether or not they are going to toss Donald Trump off the ballot." But here's what the mainstream is not telling you. Originally, this meeting was all about Joe Biden and Joe Biden's bid for the primary election being challenged. They're looking to toss Joe Biden off of the ballot, the Illinois ballot. A couple of lawsuits. One was brought by Terry Newsom and a few other Illinois voters, and it alleges that under the 14th Amendment, Biden has given aid and comfort to the enemies through his border policies. And under the 14th Amendment, it clearly states that, hey, if you pledge a support to the Constitution, or and then you are guilty of things like insurrection, rebellion, or providing aid and comfort to your enemies, then you cannot hold public office. So Joe Biden, he left $75 billion of military equipment in Afghanistan for the Taliban, who is our enemy, to use on American soldiers. Okay, so to use and to turn around and to use them on our men and women of this country. The lawsuit alleges that he took an oath to support the Constitution 9 times as both U.S. Senator and Vice President, and then he gave aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States. Therefore, the 14th Amendment, via the 14th Amendment, he cannot hold any office. So I don't really like the 14th Amendment thing. They're doing the same thing to former President Donald Trump. I don't like it because they're saying that he committed insurrection, therefore he can't hold public office. But it's kind of silly to invoke like the 14th Amendment against Donald Trump because Donald Trump never swore an oath to support the Constitution. He swore an oath to, I think, protect the Constitution and preserve the Constitution, something like that. But the word support was nowhere near in his oath that he took, nowhere in the 2017 oath that he took. He did not pledge support to the Constitution. Okay, in 2017. The presidency does not require you to support the Constitution, or the oath doesn't say support the Constitution. It's very different. But they have claimed that Trump has committed insurrection. They've claimed on the other side of the aisle that Joe Biden has provided aid and comfort through the enemies. I don't like this objection because we're skipping a step. We're supposed to prove that Donald Trump committed some sort of insurrection and charge him and convict him of that. Okay. And then we should prove that Joe Biden did, in fact, provide aid and comfort to those enemies. And then after we get the proof of these two things, then we can talk about the 14th Amendment. We're kind of skipping a test or a step here with this 14th Amendment case, these objections based off the 14th Amendment. Now, there's a different objection. This is kind of the smoking gun, the silver bullet, if you will. I don't know. Beth Smith, she's an Illinois voter, LaSalle County board member, and she is seeking to remove Biden from the ballot in a much different way. So this objection lies on the notarization of Biden's candidacy. His statement of candidacy was notarized by a notary commissioned in D.C., not in Illinois, and Illinois state law says that you have to have it commissioned, or a notary commissioned in the state of Illinois to sign off on your statement of candidacy. Okay. So Smith said, she goes, it's pretty simple. I want to make sure that the Illinois election code is complied with. Okay. So she did not object to Trump's petitions because she didn't pull his petitions. Trump did also have his statement of candidacy notarized by somebody not commissioned in Illinois, but rather Florida. But he's not being objected on those grounds because there were no objections filed before the deadline on those grounds. So, one thing that I really like about this objection for Joe Biden is that there's court precedent here. In 2003, there was an Illinois case, Jackson Hicks versus East St. Louis Board of Election Commissioners, and there was this ruling by the appellate court where they tossed a guy off the ballot because he got his statement of candidacy notarized by somebody in Missouri, not in the state of Illinois, and that's a big no-no. So Beth Smith, who's got this objection, she goes, as far as I'm concerned, with President Joe Biden, it should be cut and dry. He didn't have an Illinois notary. So the Illinois State Board of Elections, they had this special meeting concerning these objections, but the mainstream media, it's so funny in the state of Illinois here, the mainstream media is completely blacking this story out. They are not letting people know that Joe Biden could possibly not be on that Illinois ballot. There is more of a likelihood that President Joe Biden, at least when you look at the facts, okay, when you look at the facts, it looks like President Joe Biden should not be on that ballot, especially because of this second objection by Beth Smith. The 14th Amendment thing, like I said, I'm not an attorney. I don't like it. And just because I feel like there has to be some sort of charges first and some sort of conviction. You have to prove that Joe Biden committed treason before you can toss him off of the ballot. You have to charge and prove that in the court of law. You can't just say he did it and then try to toss him off the ballot. It makes no sense. We're kind of skipping a step here with both Trump and Joe Biden. So I do want to talk about this story. It's tragic. It was in Maricopa County, Arizona. And this guy, he attempted to kidnap this little girl. Okay. So this man who had a history of violence tried to kidnap this poor girl who's walking to school. Thankfully, this little girl got away from the evil predator. And I'm not going to say alleged predator. Okay. I'm not going to do that. Even though he hasn't been convicted of this crime where he almost kidnaps this little girl, he has been found guilty of stabbing his mom in the neck, like quite literally stabbed his mom in the neck. And therefore, I'm going to say that he's a predator. He's not an alleged predator. He's a predator because the shoe fits. Okay. The guy stabbed his mom in the neck. So this guy, I don't know why he was set free by our justice system. But he was set free. And once again, he was able to commit atrocities in society. So it should be it should not come as a surprise when he goes out and he tries to harm an innocent person. You know, Joe Biden, he gets out there and Romeo Nance, this was a Joliet mass killing. They're looking at obstruction of justice for his girlfriend, Romeo Nance. He fled the state. They found him in Texas. He was confronted by law enforcement. He shot himself in the head, or shot himself, right? And Romeo Nance, he shot all kinds of people. I think he killed 8 people here in the state of Illinois. Joe Biden gets out there, blames the gun, and makes no mention of the shooter, and makes no mention that Romeo Nance was known to authorities a year ago, and that he was accused of killing and shooting a woman a year ago from when this happened. Okay, so he had a history of violence as well. And like, why was this guy out? He's accused of shooting somebody. Why is this guy out? Or like, if he's accused of shooting somebody, okay, and he's let out and he shoots more people, like at that point, I mean, what? You don't. You don't. I mean, I just don't. Say a dog, right? You don't blame a dog for barking. Okay, the dog barks. That's you put the bark collar on the dog, so the dog doesn't bark anymore. Okay, a shooter shoots people. You let the shooter out, the shooter's gonna shoot people. This is insane to me. But his name is Joseph Ruiz, this guy in Arizona who tries to kidnap this little girl. It's all caught on video. He's facing a count of kidnapping and custodial interference, and authorities did not specify if he had a prior connection with this little girl. But video footage shows that the sedan makes a U-turn towards the child, and the child is walking on the sidewalk. This is happening Friday morning at about 7:56 a.m., and then the vehicle stops on the sidewalk. The student passes the sedan, and then the driver steps out of the car and gives chase to the little girl. The student runs away, thankfully, narrowly, and then the driver just stops pursuit, and then he returns to the sedan. But the Sunset Elementary School, they wrote to the parents saying that, hey, the girl noticed the suspect following her from her apartment. Be on the lookout. A few classmates comforted the girl. I mean, It's so clear. Preschoolers, fifth graders, they all know. They all have a better moral compass than our justice system. They have enough of a moral compass to know that it's wrong to stab people and to kidnap people. But I don't know why our justice system it doesn't grasp that. He has a history of violence. I've got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back. I'm going to wrap up this story. Plus, Ilhan Omar, she is Somalia first, Muslim second, and nowhere on that list in this passionate speech that she gave to a group of Somalis. Somalis? Yeah, Somalis. She does not mention she is for America at all. She's working in Congress for Somalia. She said this out loud. That's next. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. I so do appreciate you guys tuning in each and every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're going to come back. I'm going to wrap up the story here about this guy who tried to kidnap the girl in Arizona, and it was all caught on tape. Now, the prosecutor, he says it's worth noting that this guy has a history of violence. Yes, and he was convicted of aggravated assault, class 3 dangerous felony. He stabbed his mom in the neck. And now we don't have a whole lot of details about anything other than the conviction where he stabbed his mom in the neck. Okay, so we know that, but there have been other atrocities he's committed, and the state has requested that that information be sealed. So it's unclear why they would hide that information, but it's totally incomprehensible as to the reason this man was let to be out and freely roaming the United States. So, or in Arizona. I'm back now. When you have a justice system that prioritizes criminals going back to society over the victims and you prioritize criminals, you end up with stories like this where this guy tries to kidnap this girl broad daylight uh, while she's walking to school. She's an elementary school, elementary aged school student. So she was walking. He comes up in a sedan and he gives chase. He stops pursuing her, but he almost kidnaps her. And I mean, I don't know. He nearly got away with doing unspeakable acts, even though he should have never been let out because this guy actually stabbed his mom in the neck and he's got aggravated assault, class 3 dangerous felony. There's some things on his record where we don't even know like some of the information because the state of Arizona, it's happening in Arizona, has requested to keep that information sealed. So it's unclear what they're wanting to hide and why they would hide such information about this guy, but it's so I can't even wrap my head around the reason as to the reason why this man was let out and left to roam freely in the state of Arizona. I have no idea. But guy has class 3 dangerous felony, stabbed his mom in the neck, aggravated assault. And look, preschoolers, kids, they know that kidnapping and stabbing people is evil. Okay. The classmates of hers, when she got to school, they comforted her. And, our justice system can't wrap their heads around. I mean, for some odd reason, they don't get it that, hey, you don't stab people and you don't kidnap people. And, I just have to say this, let's hope that the state who let him out in the first place, who also wants his information sealed, won't make the same mistake again. And, uh, you know, I'm just going to say it's long overdue. We need to throw away the key on this guy. All right. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's Tuesday morning. Up next after me, it's Glenn Beck, Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Mark Lee Van Campen Robbins, and of course, Ben Shapiro. You guys have a blessed Tuesday. We'll do it all again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Bye-bye. Love you.